Strap yourself in. Today we're gonna ride the hype train. So let's have a look and see what we've got. Alright, so we have the Ummagawd Acrobrat. We need your help. The first batch of Acrobrats include an assortment of bushings to help you find the one that works for your setup. Help the community by sharing your setup at www.acrobrat.com. So it has its own website. Some quadcopters, stickers, and some cyclone props. So this nicely ties in with the CADX turtle that I reviewed the other day, and the turtle was a bit of a surprise actually. I wasn't expecting to receive that until last minute, but I've been eyeing up this frame. If you've been around the channel for a bit, you know that I've had a few 3-inch frames that I've been using to fly GoPros, or should I say I've been putting GoPros on them. And the idea behind this little guy is it's really designed for a run cam split, or obviously the CADX turtle, basically designed for people who want a little 3-inch but don't want to spend a fortune lugging a GoPro around. So it looks like it's a pretty simple little frame. So as usual, what I'm going to do is scratch my head, put it together, obviously work out which of these guys I think I should be using, and we'll go from there. Right, so I've put the frame together by some little M2 bolts and a few spacers, which presumably are to mount your flight controller stack and possibly also your camera. And I want to get a few things out of the way first, but just before I do, I'm just going to touch on these. So these are the grommets or bushings that basically attach the top 2 plates onto the bottom plate. And the idea of these is you've got a dirty section where all the vibration will happen, and a clean section where these bushings or soft mounts will help remove some of the vibration from getting to your run cam split or CADX turtle, which are basically the 2 cameras this frame would work best with. And the original, or should I say batch number 1, has come with a number of different colours. So the black are the hardest, then it's the blue, then it's the red, then it's the white. And this little piece of paper that I spoke about is essentially just asking whoever gets batch number 1 to help them decide which of these different colours actually work. Because if you live in a very hot country, the material will get softer, and if you live in a very cold country, the material will get harder. So having just felt them, I've used the red ones. I don't know whether that's too much vibration damping or not enough, but that's what I've gone with. And again, you get the same for the flight controller stack, which I actually think is overkill. We all use flight controllers that have grommets on them now, which just have these little soft mounts. The clever thing here is he's added the soft mounts directly into the frame, so of course you can mount your stack really low, which is great. However, because we're talking about a 20 by 20 stack here, it's going to weigh 4 grams, 5 grams. Your total stack is maybe going to weigh 8 grams. So having multiple different hardnesses, I think is overkill and a bit of a waste of money in my opinion. I've gone for the softest ones simply because they still feel relatively hard and obviously in the UK at the moment we've got some pretty hot temperatures, but I suspect by the time this goes into version, you know, batch 2 or batch 3, you'll get a lot less of this stuff. So that's the kind of main gist of the frame. I've got a few initial bugbears I want to get off my chest. The first one is, it's really expensive for what you get, and there's no two ways around that. What we're looking at here is a simple, nicely cut one-piece bottom plate, a couple of side plates, and a very small battery plate, and obviously some spacers. And I think this retails in the UK for $44.99, and a similar amount of dollars in the US. I suspect within about 4.5 minutes, Banggood will have an identical clone of this out for about 17 quid. I think it's a difficult one to answer. I think it's overpriced, is my honest feeling of it. However, I suspect that it's priced this way because of the amount of development that went into it. And like all these things, and I've said this before on this channel, don't go out and buy the 10 quid Banggood version. You know, if you think this frame is overpriced, go out and buy a different frame. Don't buy a direct clone of a brand new frame. Having said that, I think it's really well designed, and as I said, most of that money will be clawing back the development costs. There were 13 beta testers. It went through numerous different revisions, and obviously it's a clever design, so that's where the money's gone. You know, whether you think it's worth that amount of money, only you can make your mind up. So with that out of the way, my opinion on this frame is it's pretty nifty. There is one other downside. I've just forgotten to put this bolt in, there's one downside that I think takes it away from being a perfect frame, and I think that downside is it should come with 3D prints. If you're going to charge 45 quid for a frame, and especially a frame that's designed like this, where essentially this whole top part is held in place by these rubber bushings, at least design some 3D mounts that protect the bottom of the frame here, because if you run this across concrete, it's just going to delaminate and crack, and you're going to lose all integrity of the frame. Brain 3D and quite a lot of other guys actually have designed a number of different protections for this. You can get a VTX and antenna stack. You can get motor soft mounts, which act to protect this bottom plate. You can get front protectors. There's some really nice stuff out there, and they're all lovely additions to have, except if you live in the UK like I do, there's nowhere to buy them from. So I'm hoping somebody like Multi-Rotor Spares or someone like that will pick up the Brain 3D prints and you can actually get them. But I think it's pretty poor that they would design a frame that has such an integral part of it in such an exposed place and not provide soft mounts or some sort of protective cover for the bottom of the frame. It should come with them, and the fact that you immediately have to go out and buy them if you're flying over anything that's not soft grass, I think is a pretty poor shout. So that's a few negatives out of the way. If we look at the frame, we've got 3mm carbon, and the carbon itself looks really nice. There are a few little burrs on it where it's not perfectly cut, but the actual in cuts on it are really sharp and really nice. The whole thing feels pretty stiff. It's got the very slightest little bit of wiggle on it, but that's exactly what you want to see so it doesn't splinter in the first crash. Although these bushings are the only thing really holding the top plate on, it is really nicely held in place. It doesn't feel like the top plate is going to disappear in a hard crash, and I think the way that this front section has been designed is really handsome, especially if you get the 3D prints to go on it. Obviously these two top side plates are held in place by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 25mm alloy standoffs. Shame they're in black and not the sort of purple or green that he was showing on his videos. so I might have to change those for something a little bit jazzier. But there's not a huge amount to say. It's a quirky little design. It's got your little battery plates here. It comes with some of the very good Ummagawd, which is, you've probably seen on other videos. This stuff is seriously sticky and should keep your battery nicely in place. The whole design of it comprises of 4 20 by 20 stacks or 20 by 20 cutouts. So the way that you would generally build this is you would have your 20 by 20 ESC and flight controller here. At the front you would have your runcam split board or the Cadex turtle, and at the back, and possibly your receiver, and at the back you would have your VTX or receiver. And it should make for a pretty nice build. When you build this, you don't want to build it with your stack almost touching this top plate, because in a big crash it will squash itself down, so you need to allow for that, otherwise you'll damage your components. The other thing I'm not sure about is this battery strap is really nice. It's lovely. It's got the Ummagawd logo on it, but it's a bit of a quirky battery strap, as in it's kind of purpose built for this frame. It's kind of stitched at the end, so you don't have to sort of slide it through. It just basically holds itself there, but whenever this breaks, obviously you're going to have to use a much more clunky and less pretty battery strap. So my thoughts on this are, I love the sort of clean and dirty section, this clean section here, which should help remove some of the vibrations from your HD footage when you're using the runcam or the Cadex. I love the fact he's put these grommets straight into the frame. You know, I always mount my stacks as low as I humanly can get away with, and this frame acknowledges that a lot of people do that. We've got 3 screw holes, which is all we need for 1407 motors. Obviously we've got 3-inch arms, but they spread quite a long way forward and out compared to a normal 3-inch frame, because obviously what he's looking for is to get the flight characteristics as neutral as he possibly can by running a relatively low stack, which sits your battery relatively in the prop line. And I think the whole thing is just designed really well. It's a really clever, quirky design. As I said, I think that's a bit of an overkill. This is a really good idea, although I'm not sure how many different ones I'm going to try. It seems, you know, is there going to be a huge difference between the hardest and the next hardest? I don't know, but on his website obviously you can go ahead and put your information in, which will help them decide which ones to use. So in terms of what I'm going to do with this, I've got a few ideas actually. My number one idea was just to run a GoPro session on top of it and use this 45-degree angle here to sit it down and possibly run the battery underneath. But since I got, somewhat surprisingly, the Cadex turtle, that's changed it for me. So I'm going to use the Cadex turtle inside. I'm going to use some sort of 20 amp or 25 amp 4-in-1 ESC. The flight controller I'm probably going to use is the SP. I don't know actually. Yeah, I'll have to come back on that. And I'm probably going to use the Cobra 1407 3200 kV. And the reason why I would use such a low kV on something like this is A, because I've got them sitting around doing nothing, which is the number one reason. B, the Cobra motors are pretty smooth as far as 1407s go. They're not really coggy like the Brother Hobbies or others along that ilk. And 3, I don't think you need a high kV. A build like this isn't going to be about ball breaking speed. It's going to be about trying to get sort of smooth, pretty, detailed freestyle footage, because it's a freestyle frame. So I'm not going to need to run it, you know, at a 50 degree camera angle, screaming along. It's not really what I want this little guy to do. I want this little guy to be a freestyle frame, but just a smaller one, similar to the other 3 inches that I've made in the past before. So really looking forward to building this one. Do really like the frame. Wish it came with bottom protectors or something along there, because I haven't really got anything that I can use. I could possibly, could possibly use some of these kind of sponges you get on bigger frames and maybe sit one kind of here and here, but it's going to be a bit of a bodge job, so I might have to speak to somebody about getting some 3D prints done. Although obviously if you live in America, you can just get yours from Brain 3D. Yeah, other than that, it's going to be very much suck it and see. So I think what I'm going to do with this little guy is, in a future video when I've sorted myself out, I might do kind of a step-by-step quick sort of build guide on how I'm putting this together, and then maybe a step-by-step guide about how I'm going to set up Betaflight and possibly you know, tuning, etc. I don't know yet, it depends on my time, but yeah, really looking forward to this little guy. I think it's got lots of potential. It is pretty expensive, but you know, if you like people doing bespoke designs and spending their time doing things properly, then you'll be prepared to pay the money they're asking for it. Hope that was useful. Cheers guys. Thanks very much. Bye bye.